What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Tribe of Millionaires podcast from GoBundance. I'm your host, Jamie Gruber, and today I had a truly inspiring hero, a veteran, an incredible human being named Aaron Hale join me on the podcast today. It's the first time I've ever interviewed somebody who was blind, and he also has, I don't want to get too into the story, I don't want to spoil it, but there's also some other things that he struggled with that made this interview even a little bit more challenging. So I really am excited about you hearing from him, his story, his incredible grit and perseverance, and what he's gone through. This is the kind of interview and the kind of guy that you meet that makes you say, I can do anything, because that man inspired me to do that. So I'm going to give you his bio, and then we'll kick into all of what we talked about. But this is just one of those where you sit back, put it on, listen, and just hear what this man has gone through, and his spirit and his energy and all of that will just uplift you, and will give you energy as we enter into 2022. We'll give you energy to fulfill and go through whatever you need to achieve every dream that you have. So Aaron Hale was served 14 years in both the Navy as the chef to the commander of the U.S. Sixth Fleet, and then transitioning on to becoming an Army team leader in one of the military's most dangerous jobs, Explosive Ordinance Disposal. Staff Sergeant Aaron Hale was blinded by an IED. Not letting his injuries hold him back, Aaron became an EOD instructor, motivational speaker, mountain climber. We're talking Kilimanjaro. Wait till you hear this. Whitewater kayaker and marathon runner, multiple marathons. He's a proud husband, father of an 9-year-old son, and the recent addition of 2 identical twin boys. Runs a thriving chocolate company, E.O.D Fudge. Make sure you order from that at E.O.D Confections. Check him out. With his wife, and recently completed his first 100-mile ultra marathon. Can't wait for you to hear more about this amazing gentleman. He's a gift that I hope to give to all of you. Enjoy this episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you think about Aaron Hale. Other than that, be inspired by this amazing man. Aaron Hale, man, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Jamie. And I'm going to have to thank Doug, the fellow veteran himself, and friend. So I appreciate making the connection.
Absolutely. There's a lot to your story, and I want to dive into this. We're going to come up to the moment that we just discussed, the IED that took your sight, and then the aftermath of that, which we haven't even touched yet. But before that, let's go back a bit. Give us your backstory. How did you arrive at the Navy first? So, where are you from? Kind of take us up to your decision to go into a life of service.
Absolutely. I grew up in Akron, Ohio. And I was one of those guys that growing up, I was just talented enough to not have to put a whole lot of effort into just about anything. And if I did, I'd usually charm my way around it. But that worked all through high school. But then when I got to college, everybody was working hard, quickly passed me by. And the All-American slacker had to find a new course of action. So I decided to follow the cooking route. I always loved being a cook. I was cooking since I could reach over the counter. My whole family, they've got very creative bug, very artistic family. My mom and my brother are great paint and sketch artists. My creativity landed me in the kitchen. I love eating, and I love creating food, and it was one of those things that I loved giving to others, because part of that was just creating this delicious food. It was more fulfilling to share it with others. So I decided to join the Navy. I'd go to culinary school on the GI Bill, and while I was in the military, I might as well get some more on the job training by being a cook. So, and in a few years, I'd earned my way up to cooking for the admiral of the Sixth Fleet in Gaeta, Italy. So And so that's how I joined the military. And actually, up until I was like 18, in fact, up until about a month before I enlisted, I absolutely knew I'd never be in the military. But my first attempt at college, it just turned out differently. And in fact, after joining the military, uh, it there was this, of course, transformation. It was not about me. I first I learned those things that helped me be a better person. I was learned the core values of the military. I learned of course, the discipline and work ethic and all those things I was lacking in my earlier years. But then it stopped being about me, less about me and more about others, the service, my fellow service members, and about a bigger picture. And I took even more pride, not in my accomplishments, but the accomplishments of the team. And I fell in love with my service and the military. So
Yeah.
while I wasn't in Italy, this was about 2004. The wars were in full swing. But I found myself, I was cooking for the admiral, floating around the Mediterranean, visiting all these incredible destinations in Europe and the Mediterranean. And I was watching the battle unfold. I was watching the wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, on CNN. And I just felt a calling, a new direction, because of my love of service. I felt my talents, my abilities could be better used in a different capacity. So that's when I discovered EOD.
Yeah. Yeah, well, no, that's great. I was going to ask that. How did you what transitioned you from Navy to Army? And that right there tells the story. Like you said, you were in the military, but maybe not in active, combat situations, and you felt the compelled to get there. So you're in EOD. It's a very dangerous explosive ordnance disposal, very dangerous position. Can you tell us, I led with, obviously you had this IED explode. Can you bring us to that story? This is a pivotal moment in your life, obviously. Can you
Oh,
bring
of
us to
course.
that story and kind of take us forward from there?
Yes. The EOD, of course, Explosive Ordinance Disposal, is the military's bomb squad. Those guys in the bomb suits that walk up on car bombs or suicide vests or those roadside bombs, as well as any unexploded ordnance on the battlefield, from bullets to nuclear weapons. Any of those weapons of mass destruction or chemical weapons, biological weapons. That's all within our wheelhouse. That's our job, our duty. So, of course, that is a huge transition from being a cook. So
Sure.
I tell people I got my first confirmed kill with a cheesecake and decided to start saving lives instead. But the truth was, my first deployment, I deployed as a cook. I was running a chow hall out there. I went from cooking for the admirals in his top brass, maybe 25, 35 at a time, to 5, 6, 700 NATO troops in the desert of Afghanistan.
Wow.
And while I was there, I met some EOD techs, and I started learning all about their job. And it's amazing. Just the the mission pace, the technical aspect of the job, the fact that they're first responders and lifesavers on the battlefield. It just, something clicked. It was just exactly the calling I was looking for. So when my time in Afghanistan was up and I returned to the United States, I switched jobs. In fact, I switched uniforms. I went from the Navy to the Army. I trained up as a soldier. Then I trained up as an EOD technician. And after that, I deployed once to Iraq and once more to Afghanistan, but this time in a different capacity as an EOD team leader. EOD teams, they roll in 2 or 3 person teams, and the team leader is actually the one that gets in the suit and makes that long walk So I was about 8 months into this 12-month rotation. I just gotten back from a 2-week R&R vacation back home, and it was the holidays. I got to see my son, my oldest, turn 1 year old.
Yeah.
And I got to see the whole family gather around for Thanksgiving, which is maybe probably without my favorite holiday, just because you get to gather all the family and friends around and talk about what you're most grateful for. And of course, you get to eat like a glutton. But it was a fantastic last page in the photo album,
Yeah.
because when I got back to the battlefield, my team picked me up in our armored truck, and we jumped in a supply convoy to head from the airfield back to our command outpost, where our area of operation where we were working. And along the way, there was a call. An IED was on the side of the road, and they needed us to get to work. So threw the luggage off of the robot, threw the robot out of the truck, and it got to work. Anyways, what happened was we'd actually taken care of the IED and had it separated, and I was going to go up and grab evidence and dispose of the rest with a charge of my own. And on the way, there was a second device that hadn't yet been detected. So that hit me right square in the head. It took my eyes and cracked my skull. I was leaking spinal fluid right out of my nose. It blew out my eardrums, but I still had my hearing. But within 48 hours, I was back at Walter Reed, trying to, and I, would quickly discover that I would be 100% blind for the rest of my life. So I was laying there in the hospital bed trying to figure out, what just happened. That was so fast.
Sure.
And here I am in the dark, and those demons, I call them the demons. They try to creep in, the what ifs, the why me's, all that self-defeating mentality, that victim sense of self, that the world is happening to you, and what just happened to me, and why would it happen to me? I did everything I was supposed to. But there's also a whole number of things that affected the change, because I didn't let that victim mentality, those demons in. It doesn't mean that there weren't some really dark days, some really tough times, but one of the things was I was in a hospital full of heroes, everybody going through their own personal struggle, their own personal battle. Some, with all sorts of different life-changing injuries. I don't have a monopoly on pain. I don't have a monopoly on hardship, and these guys are fighting, and this is my team. These are I'm still a sergeant in the Army. I'm still a father. I'm still a husband, a son. I've got all these hats to wear. In fact, my life doesn't even belong to me. It belongs to all of them. And if I would ever decide to go down that that dark spiral of depression, and where so many of us make those awful decisions that that are permanent. I would have to do that by committee anyways, but the truth is, when you start thinking about the impact it has on others, either direction, you're ending the fight, or carrying on the best you can, it affects others. So at that very moment, when I realized everything else that was going around in my world, that's situational awareness, and how my life, in the decisions I make every single day, including that one most important one, that moment, I decided that if I was going to be a blind man, I was going to be the best damn blind man I could be. And I got to work.
Amazing. Amazing. That's just incredible. I want to go back to the moment that this happened for a moment. Just not to get into the too much detail, but and then we'll come back to where we are right now because I want to kind of advance the story. But when this blast occurred, what I've seen on TV or whatever is you're in a full blast suit, a helmet, all of that stuff. Does that not protect you? Like, was the helmet on? Did you not? Were you just fully exposed? How did it impact you? How did you have gear on that would protect you that failed, or were you not wearing gear? What did that look like when the blast occurred?
Well, I did not have the bomb suit on. It just wouldn't be the IED, the known hazard out there, was already separated.
Yep.
That doesn't make it safe, but it also doesn't make it an unknown quantity. And
Right.
that's what the bomb suit really is, for an unknown hazard. So it just like the suit up in the bomb suit every single time I stepped out of my truck would actually be pretty ridiculous, and the rest, the eyes of the rest of the soldiers, the infantry guys all around, and it would be it just wouldn't be realistic on the battlefield. So I had my standard body armor, helmet, and eye protection, as well, gloves and other sorts of, but I was just carrying, I didn't have the bomb suit. I was just carrying my evidence collection kit and a metal detector to head down towards the IED. Just along the way, was a second after my metal detector tried to tell me something very, very important. Boom.
Yeah. Life changes in a second, right? Is the lesson in that. Life changes, and for you, dramatically in a moment. So from the time that happened, you're collecting your thoughts, you're brought to Walter Reed, and you said, I don't have a monopoly on hardship and pain. I mean, that's such a perspective changing quote. That's a gift you just gave me. I love that quote. So thank you. How long did it take for you to get there? Was this fairly immediate? You mentioned dark days. How long were you in, Walter Reed or in recovery? And what was the time frame for you to get to this place of I'm going to be the best damn blind man in the world? Like, how long did that take for you to get there? If you can kind of share a little bit of that.
Thankfully, it didn't take me very long.
Wow.
It just between my incredible family, my super optimistic mom, who is actually unfortunately been through this before, with my brother, who is actually is injured far worse than I was in a automobile accident years before me. And so she comes walking in and said, "This ain't my first rodeo." And my sister, who is actually a pediatric trauma nurse, ICU, and she, both of them would just fielding, like translating the doctor's jargon, and holding all their feet to the fire, and just you would think they're the ones in the military, but and my family, incredible support, the support of my fellow service members up and down the hallways. In fact, there was a Sergeant Kyle Vickers, who is another EOD team leader in my company, who was injured just 2 weeks prior, and he was, he's a good buddy, still is today, but he came wheeling in his wheelchair, just 2 days after I'd arrived, with a smile on his face, and that was the first time I realized I can hear people smiling. You know what I mean? And
wow,
all these people around me helped turn that darkness and help point me in the right direction.
So you had a mother and a sister ready to roll up their sleeves. They knew what to do. They were equipped. They were equipped to help you. Wow, that's just incredible. And I know from that point, from researching your story, you started to do things like running at this point, right? Okay, you're blind, but you can run. I think you called it more of a team sport right? Running became a team sport, but you could still run. But right now, as I talk to you, and for those that listen to the podcast, I might sound a little different, meaning I'm being a little bit more deliberate with my words. I'm being a little bit more deliberate with how I say what I say, because you had another incident pop up. Can you take us to, you're leaning into your new life as a blind man? Then
Well,
what
of
happened?
course, the very first steps were to get out of Walter Reed and heal. But
Yep.
after the surgeries and the attempts to save one of my eyes that failed,
Mm.
they had to patch the skull fracture, so I just stopped leaking spinal fluid. And of course, that's a direct line for bacteria or germs or infection straight into the brain.
Sure.
So they'd patch that. And then as soon I started, once it was the recovery time period was over, it was into rehabilitation. It was, and literally it was just going to blind school, and there's VA blind rehabilitation centers all around the country. There's about 14 or 15 of them. I went to Augusta, Georgia, and there they handed me the cane. They handed me a phone and a computer that has the text to speech, like voiceover software. And my job was to learn how to be blind. And first it was like the basics of living, but at the same time, I'm an athletic guy, and I like the outdoors, and I was also absolutely terrified of being stuck, like trapped by my couch, stuck indoors. And I didn't want to go into that again. Like I didn't want to go down that spiral where I became one of those guys that like was popping pills and feeling sorry for himself and sit on the couch until my time was up. So I got on my talking phone, my talking computer, and I started researching, doing Google searches of blind plus you name it, outdoors, hiking, climbing, running, whatever. And a few names kept popping up. One was Eric Weinmeier. He's the first blind person to climb Mount Everest. And I sought him out. I found him, and I joined him on a climb. And I actually joined him with a whole team of wounded veterans up an 18,000-foot peak in the Peruvian Andes. Another name, Lonnie Bedwell, who is the first blind person to kayak the entire Grand Canyon in a solo boat. I found him, and we went kayaking together. I did class 3 rapids in Yellowstone. It was amazing. And just I found this this new passion for finding new challenges. And from being that slacker into constantly finding new ways to push my abilities, to challenge myself, I started doing more and better than I'd had, and even doing things that I hadn't even considered when I still had my sight. And it was funny, I live in Florida. And one of the things I did after my injury was ask the military to send me to the EOD schoolhouse so I could be an instructor. And I did that for a little while, but that's in the Panhandle of Florida. But it's very hard to find a decent mountain around here to train for the Andes. So I started running. And as it turns out, I like running. And I signed up for 4 marathons in 4 months. Without having ever run my first.
Wow.
And just the fact that I was putting things on my calendar, I was making commitments, I was registering, I was like buying tickets and all that kind of stuff. And I realized one of the biggest differences was I wasn't saying someday anymore. I was saying this day. I was going to do it, and it changed everything. You say like, oh man, that guy climbed Mount Everest. I would like to do that someday, but someday never happens. So I decided, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do it by this time. And this is one of those things like the accountability groups and masterminds, and you set your goals, and then you track back from there. And that's what I started doing with all of these adventures and running. However, I was 2 weeks away from flying out to Africa and climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. This is like 4 years after my injury. Since then, I'd climbed many mountains. I'd run all these marathons. I'd made it to the Boston Marathon. I
Wow.
was public speaking. I mean, I was flying high. I was doing great. I was doing okay, becoming this blind guy. When complication with the cracked skull happened, I contracted bacterial meningitis, and I was right back in the hospital. It nearly killed me, but in the process, either the heavy doses of antibiotics or the meningitis itself, it took what was left of my hearing that the bomb hadn't stolen, and I was now totally blind and totally deaf.
Wow.
That was rough, and again,
Yeah.
I was right back there in no pun intended, that dark place. But
So at this point, you're going from I'm about to climb Kilimanjaro to now your second of five senses are gone, right? So what do you do at this moment? What I mean, go back to that dark place. Was this same thing? Were you able to fairly quickly overcome and recover from that, or was this sort of a body blow that was a little bit too difficult to come back from? Take me through your mindset in that time now where you're flying high, you're speaking on stages, you're about to climb Kilimanjaro, and now your second sense is gone.
you know, I know people can relate, not to that in particular, but we always have these situations where things are just moving so smoothly, and I mean, I would, of course, going blind is really, really hard,
Yeah.
but I figured it out. At least I was figuring it out, and then I got knocked down again, even harder. So of course I'm sitting at my breakfast counter, my breakfast bar in the kitchen, and I can't see, I can't hear, uh, I can't even get communication in. All of the talking things, the phone, the computer, a barcode scanner for my pantry items, everything was silent.
What's going on, everybody? It's Jamie. I'm jumping in real quick here because some people are listening to this podcast thinking, man, I hear this guest, I hear what they're talking about. This whole GoBundance thing sounds pretty cool. I'd love to be a part of that. And I would say to you, if you are qualified to be part of GoBundance, you're a millionaire or accredited at the very least, jump onto GoBundance.com and just put your application in. You'll get on a call. It might even be with me where we can talk about what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and what it is to be part of this community in depth. Would love to have a conversation with you about that. It's been just so life-changing for me. And for those of you out there that are saying, yeah, sounds great, I would if I were a millionaire or if I were accredited, but I'm not there yet. We've got that now. We've built a program and I run it. I love being a part of it. I left my job for it, called Emerge and Ascend. Emerge is where you got to start. It's a 12-week intensive sprint goal setting course. You're going to get curriculum every week. You're going to get live intervention every week. You're going to get connection with GoBundance members every week. You're going to get accountability from like-minded people every week. Jump into that, kill it, and we invite you to Ascend, which is essentially the GoBundance mastermind without the $1 million requirement. And we actually even add in coaching to help folks find their purpose, their mission, their values. It's intense. It's everything all wrapped in one. So again, if you're a millionaire or you're at least accredited and you're wondering about this GoBundance thing and that shouldn't I, just apply. Throw your name in. You lose nothing. All you do is put your name into an application form, you get on a phone call, and then you decide. If you're not yet at that $1 million mark, look at Emerge, GoBundance.com/emerge. And what you can do as well is drop my name in there, Jamie, Jamie, and we'll knock $200 off the tuition for Emerge. Jump in there and we'll get you started on your journey toward being a whole life millionaire, toward getting to GoBundance, whatever you want. People in Emerge, people in Ascend, people in GoBundance all report back often the changes it's made in their lives financially, relationally, and everywhere else. So go to GoBundance.com, check all of that out, see wherever you are, dive into that particular area of GoBundance, and we'd love to see you inside of the tribe. Now, back to our show.
It was a very, very lonely, isolating time. I mean, during the whole COVID quarantine time, like, no big deal. I've been here before. But yeah, it was really those demons again saying, why me? But it was even harder because this time it was like lightning striking twice. When have I had my fair share? When has this soldier paid his dues? Because later did it happen to me again. But no matter what, it's the same thing. It's me worrying about me. There's a and I started to think about, there's a great example with the EOD teams. We roll in, we're in three member teams, and we get this huge shipping container full of tools, from the bomb suits to robots to hazmat kits, and you name it. We have specific tools just to counter like one possible bomb out there. And so we have all these tools, and they come overseas to wherever we're deployed. And then we get this armored truck, and it's not quite as big as the big shipping container. So we got to take the tools we'll most likely need, and we have to leave some behind. And then we'll go and we do our job. We can't worry about the tools. We had to leave it behind. We have to do the job with what we've got. And then in Afghanistan, they're like, it's not a goat trail, so there's no vehicles can pass. So we have to get on foot. So we're doing dismounted patrols, and the EOD team can only work with the tools they can carry on their backs. And all those other tools, we can't worry about those, and we still have a mission to complete. And I loved how Jim Mattis said in his book, Call Sign Chaos, in the Marines, things being hard was never a good excuse for mission failure. And the truth was, we had like a spool of rope, some bear charges of C4, and then our creativity, our imagination, our training, and what we had around us, our team members. So we still had the job to do. We had to save lives. We had to complete the mission, and couldn't worry about the tools we left behind. So here I am, feeling sorry about the tools I just had to leave behind. And I've been doing this for almost 4 years, talking about triumph through tragedy, and strength because of struggle, not despite despite it. So I had to make that switch of mindset where I say, well, I'm gonna have to put my money where my mouth is and do it all over again. And I had to figure this out. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think you were about to say what I was going to say. We're talking today, thank God for the advancements in hearing technology, like the cochlear implant that you have in right now. But what you said a moment ago, it just made me realize you live a life of more, how can I, as opposed to saying I can't. And that analogy of using the tools that you have on your back, my goodness, man. I mean, you've got enough reasons. No one would ever blame you for mailing it in, giving up, playing the victim, but you are the exact opposite of that. You're the exact opposite. And what I wanted to ask you, and I don't know exactly the right way to phrase the question, so but what's the point of all of this? What point have you derived from it? Like, you've become blind and then you become deaf. Thankfully, the cochlear implant allows you the gift to hear again. Even if in some ways limited, you get to hear. But how do you define for yourself what your purpose is then? Why are you blind? Why did you become deaf? And what has that led to in your life that you feel is on purpose? What is the purpose of all of this as you've defined it for you?
That's a great question. First, I had purpose before these injuries, as illness. I mean, like I said, a family that
Yeah.
I'm responsible to and I'm responsible for. I've got 3 boys, including those identical twins, because I shouldn't be the only one that's confused. Uh, and uh, I need to be the best father I can. I need to be the best husband I can. It doesn't mean I succeed every day, but part of my purpose is to make sure that my kids can always look to me and hopefully see a hero. And I'm not talking about the battlefield warrior. I'm talking about the father hero, and say that my dad can do anything, and so what can I? So that's the major driving factor. But also, my experiences, like everybody else's, are a gift that we need to share with others. Now, yeah, it's a bittersweet gift, for sure. But um, I remember somebody saying something along the lines of, and I'm terrible at remembering quotes, but they said that your struggle, the story of your struggle could be the blueprint for somebody else's survival. So if I can share my story, and if I can continue to succeed and find the way to define, find these challenges and figure them out, and do better each day, and I can tell others about it, then maybe I can help them through their difficulties.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've definitely have done that. You've definitely inspired a lot of people. Um, do you ever think in terms of, anything you would change? Would you change anything? That sounds like a ridiculous question on the surface to me. Of course, you would want your sight and your hearing back, but that's not the story of your life. Do you have those moments? Would you change anything? Do you feel like where you are right now is a blessing, a curse? Is there anything you would change about your life given where your life is right now and where you see it headed in the future?
It's always that the two sides of a coin, and how you choose to see it, your perspective. It could most certainly be a curse, but if I consider it a blessing, if I just decide it's a
Yeah.
blessing, then that's what it is. It's my gift, and I can use it however. From there I can make different other decisions, and so uh, what would I change? I don't know.
Hmm.
I believe I've become a better person after my injuries. I was more of a selfish person, and now I'm more of a giver. I didn't have a whole lot of ambition early on, and now I try to find new challenges and new opportunities each day. And and the thing is that I learned that accomplishment is addictive. But love how it was, love how Tony Robbins said it, and he said success without contribution is the greatest failure. So just accomplishment alone is, again, that on that selfish side, and to be a part of my community, I need to contribute. And it's very easy, of course, for me to be isolated. So the more I contribute, the more I am connected with my community, and the less I'm isolating myself.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. That's an incredible perspective. I love the point that you make about you decide for yourself that this is a blessing and what it's made you, the person you are today, you're proud of. On the slacker piece, I want to talk about that. I wrote that down, slacker to challenging yourself. That was kind of your transition or what you and I resonate personally with that a bit. When you talked about charming your way through high school, yeah, same. I did the same exact thing. I remember writing, if I showed up late to school, I just wrote a letter, like signing my parents' signature to say why I was late. I just figured my way out to get through school, and then at some point, I had to obviously, buckle down. But what do you think that is, though? Were you truly ever a slacker, or were you in a position where you weren't? I don't know, the highest and best use of you wasn't in play yet. I mean, what do you truly believe that you were a slacker, or is it just that at that point in time nothing was there to challenge you? You weren't challenged by anything, and you found those challenges once you started to intentionally do things like join the military, become a cook, go over to EOD. I'm kind of curious your perspective on that idea of being a slacker. Was it just that you weren't in a position to be challenged, or were you really just a lazy guy? Really?
I think again, it's my perspective. I
Yeah,
was not a slacker all the time, of course.
sure.
There are times where we find challenge, and I found it in that accomplishment after rising to the challenge felt great, and I loved it, and those are the things I became passionate about, but I didn't recognize that. So I would do well in one class because I liked it and I was doing well in that class, and it just kind of fed on itself. And I played football through high school, and uh, I loved it. I played well. I started, and I was given, the positions I wanted. So it's like, you enjoy it, you work harder at it, but I didn't recognize the fact that if I put the effort in to other aspects of my life, to other challenges, that I would appreciate the experience more, and possibly even the subjects. So it was the military that taught me quite a bit of that, and then of course um, after the injuries.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting point, and I guess where I was going with that, and you stated it beautifully. I think you think of high school, that time you're in positions of things that you kind of have to do even though you don't want to, and as you grow, and a lot of people like me that had a job or have a job, and they feel tethered to it, and they feel maybe like that slacker in that job because they're just not inspired by it. Being intentional about getting into something, or placing your time and energy into things that inspire you, into what you have a passion for or feel purposeful with, I think is the key to every successful person I've ever interviewed, you included. You're intentional about where you spend your time, that it is in areas that feel on purpose for you. And to that end, I want to bring us to EOD Fudge. So tell me about the beginnings of this. Why is Fudge? Why is Fudge your? It's got you on Rachel Ray. I mean, this is this is a big deal. How did you come to Fudge, and tell us about the business venture, and what you're doing with that? How did that come to be?
So, of course, it takes us right back to me sitting there at my breakfast bar, totally deaf, totally blind,
Yeah.
and thankfully, um, just before the illness set in, I had, excuse me, I had this amazing week-long vacation slash first date with this beautiful woman. Actually, she's a childhood friend. In fact, our mothers were childhood friends, grew up in Baltimore together. My mom, of course, raised us in Ohio, and Michaela's mom raised her family out in Colorado. But every year, she would pack up the kids, pack up the girls in a minivan and drive all the way back to Baltimore for summer vacation. Why they would drive across the country instead of fly, I don't know, but they would come by way of Ohio, visit with my mom and her kids, us. And I knew Michaela since she was like 5 years old. Um, and we reconnected on social media. We started talking about that time, and I'd convinced her. She was working in California, and I convinced her to fly out to Florida for this first date. And after this amazing week, it was incredible, and she had to get back to work. I actually had a speaking engagement, so we parted ways, and we weren't quite sure what was going to happen next. But just a couple days later, boom, I'm in the hospital. Michaela turned right back around. I don't think she even unpacked her bags, and she was right back by my side, before even the rest of the family. And while it had taken a couple weeks to get out of the hospital, and then it was months of recovery at home. The rest, my mom, my sister all had jobs and lives they had to get back to. Michaela stayed right here, and she helped nurse me back to health, because I'm just blind and deaf. I'm isolated. I can't communicate with the outside world. And she actually developed this. She was writing every single letter of every single word in the palm of my hand, to get a message in. And talk about frustrating and difficult, but that was the only way. And right then and there, like at that in the kitchen, that's when I decided. I just did what anybody would do: started a chocolate company. But the truth is, again, it was Thanksgiving was coming up, the holidays. I told you I loved Thanksgiving, I loved Christmas, all that, and I turned my attention off of me and what was going on here. And we decided we were just going to throw this huge Thanksgiving feast. I mean, it was going to be epic. They were going to talk about this feast generations hence. And I started weeks in advance prepping all these things. I started making cakes and pies and cookies and desserts. I would just put them in the freezer, pull them out, on the day. And each day I'd be in the kitchen doing, like, from memory, it was cooking, and I would do batch after batch of fudge. Each time I was like putting like spices and nuts, and I was going to the liquor cabinet, and just experimenting different flavors every single time. And Michaela noticed two things. One, she noticed something she hadn't seen in 6 months, because it would be 6 months before the cochlear, like the infection would clear, and I could get the surgery, then they get the thing tuned in and all that. It'd be over 6 months before I'd hear another human voice. But in 6 months, it was the first time she'd seen a smile on my face. And the second thing she noticed was fudge piling up. So she started sneaking it out the front door. You don't really have to be real stealthy around a blind deaf guy, but she was giving it away. She was giving it to the neighbors and friends, and they started coming back and asking for more, and saying, can we buy this for our birthday party or baby shower coming up? And of course, the capitalist in me said, well, of course you may. And Extraordinary Delights was born. EODfudge.com.
I love it. EODfudge.com, and on Instagram at EODfudge. I was telling you before we jumped on, I was on the website about to order my first batch. Who doesn't love fudge? So we're gonna get some in the Gruber house old here for the holidays. But and an honor to be able to do that for a hero, somebody who's an absolute hero and a veteran who served this country incredibly. So it's going to be an honor to order it. A couple questions have popped up as I was thinking through and listening to your story. I was writing some things down. One is sort of a one-off. You mentioned about the cochlear, like it took 6 months for the infection to clear, get the cochlear implant, tune it in. I mentioned my mother has one, so I have some familiarity with that. Is there anything, any possibility, any technology on the horizon that might be similar for your ability to see one day? Or is that something that is just not anything right now that you can see, that you know of, that's possible for sight for you?
Well, I don't. These are fake eyes. These are my prosthetics. I don't have eyeballs anymore. There are doctors, there are researchers that are working on whole eye transplantation, But the problem therein is that you can transplant an eyeball into another human, connect the muscles, connect uh, um, the arteries and all that, and get the blood flow going. But the ocular nerve is part of the central nervous system, and those if they don't regenerate. You burn your finger, you burn the nerves on your fingers, they grow back and you can feel again. You break your back and that's it. Same with severing the connection to your eye. So they can put the eye in, but they can't make it work. They've had some success in whole eye transplants in rats, lab rats, with it's actually a anti-nerve degeneration drug meant for multiple sclerosis patients. However, it's just in that stage. So I don't know. Of course, everything's possible. And earlier I was telling you how amazing medical technology and science have come in just the last few years. So who knows? Who knows?
Right. Wow. No, it was just more of a curiosity for me. The other question I wanted to ask is, for anyone going through their version of adversity, I mean, we hear your story and it's, you offer a perspective, obviously, right? A bad day for me is not the same as having your eyes blown out in an IED explosion. At least I think most people would agree that that's not the same thing, but people have their adversity. You very quickly recovered, and you gave a few different thoughts on how you did that. It sounds like it's rooted in gratitude, in perspective. To your point about being, again, I go back to this. I don't have a monopoly on hardship and pain. I think that's such a powerful quote that I wrote down. And again, you gave me that gift. But is there anything else you would say to somebody who might be listening right now and going through a tough time? Maybe it's a breakdown in their relationship or something else that really is hitting them from an identity perspective. Their financial future is not as certain as they maybe thought. Their business is failing, whatever. Is there any perspective or any advice that you might give, any words of wisdom for somebody going through adversity right now?
The first thing that came to mind was a common phrase used in the military. It's embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
And really it's like, you're here, so deal with it. You go into go to battle and you're far from home and conditions are not luxurious and there are people trying to kill you. So that's not optimal. But once you get over the realization of where you are and what you still have to do, then it's just a mind shift. And I think this has been a common thread, a common theme in our conversation so far, is that it's about you deciding how you want to move forward, if you want to move forward, and how you're going to look at it. So yeah, we go through hardships at home with the family, illness, injury, finances, of course. That's a big one. But what I found so far is that, and not just me, but many others, is that there's very, very little. In fact, I'm not quite sure of any examples of things that we can't handle. And so first you got to realize that no matter what's laid before you, whether it's financial hardship or it's one big mountain, you can get up to it. You can climb it, you can defeat it, you can find success, and you can rise to the challenge if you're in the right mindset and you're willing to do the work.
Wow, that's amazing advice. Is Kilimanjaro in the future? Is that coming?
Oh, I would very much like to do that and get back on that course. The difficulty is my next challenge is to figure out a way that I can communicate in less permissive environments because of my hearing. Before, being blind, just challenging and possibly dangerous in its own right, but I could still communicate with my team and take direction. Once that communication's cut off, it becomes even more of a difficulty and a little more difficult, or a little more dangerous.
Yeah.
Also, when I lost my my hearing from the bacteria, I also lost quite a bit of my vestibular balance, my inner ear balance. So I'm actually a little wobbly on my feet, and I've trained my muscles to compensate, but it actually takes more energy and it burns me up a little bit quicker, and that's another challenge. But that balance thing, I think that's definitely more that's more possible to overcome. But the hearing part, the communication part, that isn't just dangerous for me, but it's dangerous for my team. So absolutely, I'm not cutting anything out, any possibility out, but that's it.
Makes sense. Well, I've kept you past our time, and we didn't even talk about you're in real estate now and all these different things that you're doing. So we'll have to do, if you're open to it, a part 2 and get caught up on the next version of you. I would love to have you back. But besides the website, we talked about eodfudge.com, Instagram at eodfudge, anywhere else that people should go to learn more about you or what you're doing.
Absolutely. During the whole COVID quarantine thing, we also decided to go TikTok. So if you go to at EOD Confections on TikTok, we started a little show called Aaron Hale's Cook Without Looking.
Cooking without looking. I love it. And I've seen some of those repurposed as reels. So, and they're good. They're good. I told you about the pumpkin one that I watched. For those listening, he baked a chocolate cake inside of a pumpkin. And this is a man who doesn't have the benefit of sight. Everything from opening the stove. I mean, I'm watching in awe. Like it's amazing your ability to move around that kitchen without being able to see. I can't do anything, and I have my sight. I bump my toe, I burn my finger. You're putting things in and out of the oven. You're cutting the top of this, look like a very hard pumpkin. You're pouring fudge in. You're doing butterscotch drizzle over the top perfectly. It was unbelievable to watch for any cook, but I mean, especially knowing that you don't have the benefit of sight. Yeah, a lot of you can get lost on this man's channel. So be prepared to spend some time there if you're going to go to TikTok or Instagram. So it's at EOD Confections on TikTok, at EOD Fudge on Instagram. Is that correct?
I believe most all the social medias, I think it's at EOD Confections.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been saying it wrong. At EOD Confections. My apologies. I'm pulling it up right now to absolutely be sure. And I think you are right. At EOD. Let's do this. EOD. Yeah, at EOD Confections. My apologies, everybody. At EOD Confections on Instagram. So, Aaron, amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time and giving so much insight and wisdom to all of us today, me especially. I appreciate you being here, my man.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a great conversation. Love talking to you, Jamie.
Absolutely. And I don't know if I've said it, but I mean, thank you for your service. I mean, those words aren't even big enough, but thank you so much for your service. I truly mean that.
Very welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know down in the comments and make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can be informed on the next episode and other content right here on this channel. Thank you.